Jones and Keefe here on WEEI every Thursday at 11:30. We talk to Rob Bradford, weei.com. And baseball isn't boring. He had some good intel on the pregame fracas yesterday. Dust up, brouhaha.
Yeah, it was good.
Scrap between the Red Sox and the Angels. Bradfo, as always, brought to you by McFarland Energy, the heating, cooling, and bioheat delivery pros that Eastern Mass and all of Cape Cod depend on at McFarlandEnergy.com. They could have used McFarland yesterday to cool things down before the game, Rob.
Oh, my goodness. You know, there's so many words we could have used for that, but the word that fit the best, undeniably, was kerfuffle. That was a kerfuffle.
Yeah, that was the word you used on Twitter. I did see that. I should have brought that up. My bad.
Everyone, that was it wasn't quite a brouhaha, but it was a kerfuffle. Yeah, it was bizarre because I was up in the broadcast booth doing a podcast with Ryan Brazier, and I'm all of a sudden I'm like, wait a second, something's going on down there. What's happening? Garrett Crochet's walking all the way across the field, and you know what? It inspired them. Actually, it didn't because they gave up 4 runs.
No, it started poorly. Yeah. Although it was the perfect formula. Yeah, go ahead.
No, you know who they were inspired, undeniably, was Rich Keefe up mingling with the riffraff up in the media dining room.
I heard.
Hearing me scream and yell about where are the gummy bears.
Real
They're
quick.
out of gummy bears.
Yeah, Keefe, butt out for a second.
Okay.
What was Keefe eating just a giant ice cream? This is what I've heard. This is the boots on the ground have said it was a giant ice cream, Bradford.
I cannot confirm or deny that because I was so in the zone. I was so taken aback by there was no gummy bears. But I do know he was sitting by himself, and I was like, "Come on over, come with all the cool kids. I mean, this isn't high school. Come on."
It's true. The BBWA can be intimidating.
What's the cool table?
It's cool table was the one I was at by myself.
McAdams sitting like AC Slater down at the end, what do you got, Teach?
Well. Also, his journalistic integrity went out the window once he finally got that City Connect jersey. So I mean,
you're in the. He's in the bag. Hog. He's in the bag now. Yeah.
I had a big ice cream and a City Connect. Yeah. Couldn't really do any better than that. True. This is going pretty great. All right. Well, one of the topics Jones and I have been kicking around, and we heard from Breslow this morning on the Greg Hill Show. Of course, we hear from Alex Cora before and after every game. Is just this whole idea of the approach at the plate. The driveline stuff, Cora being like, "Hey, we might need to, change our approach." Breslow, really full throat defense of driveline this morning. Where do you come down on all of this? Are we making too big a deal out of it, or is there something there?
It made me scramble to do a YouTube tutorial of what driveline was after hearing that. So I mean, I get where Breslow that was about as defensive as you're going to hear Breslow. They come back like that. But I think that's been the narrative. I've said that narrative. I mean, they've hired half of the Driveline Corporation. And I do think I get where Craig is coming from when he describes Driveline. But, the facts are the facts. In the last 2 years, you have this team who's striking out more than anybody else. You have a philosophy which is, isn't really to do the Luis Arraez, Jacob Wilson that's going to make contact. That's why Bregman was so important. So yeah, I mean, you can push back on the Driveline thing, but I think that there's an approach where it's hit the ball hard, hit the ball in the air, and maybe not prioritize worrying about strikeouts as much as you have. And the numbers bear that out. And fellas, if you want to talk about one-run games, there's a lot of reasons for it. But for me, that's one of the reasons is because you got to put the ball in play when it counts the most. And they haven't been doing that.
Okay, yesterday they did. Cora, before the game, as Keefe was suggesting, called out the process, which I did think was a shot, personally, at Breslow and Driveline and baseball ops. He's like, maybe we got to look at the process. The process ain't working. And then they come out yesterday, and they're not swinging from their asses, and the only home run they hit isn't a home run in any other ballpark. And was yesterday the beginning of a different approach, or was that just a one-off randomness?
I think the process is an all-encompassing thing, honestly. There's a lot, whether it's what they're doing in terms of PFPs, taking fielding practice with pitchers because they've been terrible with that, or whatever it is. So when he says the process, I think it's a lot of things, but that could be one of them. I mean, we can't ignore the fact that they had over 10 hits and they had, 6 strikeouts. Find how many times they've done that this year. Not a lot. So, I think that overall the process, and guys, another part of the process is getting these guys to understand when they mess up, right? Ceddanne Rafaela the other night, and he's been really, really good. but he airmails a throw. And then after the game, he's like, I thought it was a good throw. And after Cora said, no, you should have hit the cutoff guy, right? And so, yeah, but Alex Cora can go in the next day, which I'm sure he did, sit down with Rafaela and say, this is why. But to me, this is one of the things this team is missing is, the manager and the coaches, you can only say so much, and that can hit so much. You need guys in there who are going to say, hey, Sadan, that was the wrong throw. The teammates, the players, those are the best teams. And if you go back to 2021, that's what that team was like. I think that absolutely what they need in there is that they need more accountability and guys who also understand what it takes to win games. Because that's another thing. They don't have a lot of guys who have experienced a whole lot of winning in there.
What do you do with Kristian Campbell at this point? In March and April, he was off to a really nice start to the year. He might have been the worst player in May. I think we even talked about this last week. He was statistically the worst hitter in May, and then it hasn't gotten any better the first 4 games of June for him.
Well, I've been saying they should send him down for the last few weeks, maybe the last month, probably the last few weeks. Yeah. But thankfully, they got off this first base thing, which was it made zero sense. It made sense at the time. We talked about it. I think we signed off at it initially because he was hitting and fine. He's an athlete. He can play the position. They need a first baseman. But why would you land, when they said they were going to play him last Sunday, why would you put the guy who has been the worst hitter at a position that he doesn't know how to play yet? That made no sense. So they got off of that. But I think Kristian Campbell is going to be a really good player. But are we not seeing this? Where it's okay to send a guy down, especially if he wants to learn a new position or get better at the position that he's playing. It's okay to send him down. We have plenty of examples. Mike Trout, Jackson Holliday, go down the list. It's okay, and I cannot for the life of me understand what the hesitancy is when you see what they're doing to the kid. Pitch him inside, he hits the ball into the ground, defensively, doesn't look confident. Send him down, call him back up in a couple of weeks or whatever, and go from there.
The Red Sox promised approach in free agency and team building the last few years has been, well, let's get these prospects up here. Let's develop talent from within. Let's even try to pay some of these guys early. They weren't able to do that with Meyer and Anthony, who we're still waiting on coming up. But they did pay Rafaela early. They did pay Bayo early. They paid Campbell early. How are the Red Sox feeling about those early extensions and that approach? Because it doesn't seem like they're getting much of a return on any of those guys.
Well, okay, let's take one by one. Number one, you didn't need to do that with Rafaela. Nobody understood that. Even if he turned out to be a really good player, you could have waited for that. You didn't need to do it that early. The jury's still out. I saw the story Chad Jennings wrote in The Athletic today about, is he the next Pete Crow Armstrong? Well, that's a pretty big leap. Chad did a great story.
Oh, I missed that.
That's a pretty big leap.
Yeah.
And so I think that the takeaway there is that that was the guy you didn't need to do that extension so early. Bayo, same thing. You probably didn't need to, but you wanted to start locking up what you thought was the foundation. Right now, it looks like you might have misevaluated that, but there's a lot of time left with that. With the Kristian Campbell thing, fine. But, this might end up another Rafaela thing. You didn't need to do it so early. And then what you're seeing, I think, with these other guys, like Marcelo Meyer, Roman Anthony, and even Casas when he was felt like he was going to be a really, really good player, they're like, no, I'm not going to settle for that $50-60 million extension. I'm going to hold out for the Corbin Carroll. And they aren't going to give it to me, then that's fine. So the guys that I think that they really want to do it with, they haven't been able to do it with, and the guys that they have done it with haven't been the slam dunk, no doubt about it, Bobby Witt Jr. You get the face of the franchise going forward.
What are your thoughts on any potential Jarren Duran or Wilyer Abreu trade?
Ooh, I think that the Duran one, you remember, and you guys know, a year ago, before Duran took off, we had all the scuttlebutt. Scuttlebutt, another word, excellent word.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Scuttlebutt about that San Diego was interested in Jarren Duran. So with his smoke, with his fire, AJ Preller trades all the time. So I don't doubt it. But you think the Red Sox are going to let that guy go for anything but an enormous haul? He's under control. You can say what you want about any flaws in his game, but he's a unique player. He's a leadoff hitter. he's part of the solution, not part of the problem, and I'll come back to it. Like, you have him under control for a long, long time. The question is, do they think that Abreu is better than Duran? And I would say this. Well, you're still pinch hitting for Willie Abreu. As good a player as he is, you're still pinch hitting for him. So that suggests to me that Duran's probably a more valuable guy. I just think it would take an enormous haul to trade Duran.
Yeah, I mean, I'd listen on Abreu. Like, if you're telling me they're trying to balance out their roster to get pitching, I'd listen on Abreu. I mean, to me, Duran is mostly a non-starter unless you're getting a haul, like you said. Real quick, I just realized we started with the kerfuffle yesterday. I didn't ask you, what are you hearing that's all about? Because there was one guy, Mike Rodriguez, on Twitter who said the Angels were accusing the Red Sox of stealing signs.
Yeah, that's what it was. It was basically Tyler Anderson, who had pitched the first game of the series. I think that they had caught maybe like them stealing signs, which, by the way, is, it happens in baseball, but, people cannot like it. They were stealing signs when Kikuchi was pitching. So he took issue. It started yelling at Jose Flores, the first base coach. He started yelling back, and then that's when the pitching coach for the Angels got involved, and he went after Flores. Went nose to nose with them. Don't talk to my players, so forth and so on. But it was all over. Yeah, it was all over the stealing signs thing.
This series with the Yankees, obviously, even if the Red Sox sweep them, they're going to be under 500. But even just a series win against New York, could that be enough to sort of light a little bit of a fire, or do you feel like 64 games, we know what this team is?
No, we have no idea what this. That's the problem, isn't it? I mean, we have no idea.
They kind of stink. I feel like we kind of have some idea.
I'm afraid we do know.
We might know what they are. They stink.
Well, what we think is that they're not very good, and they're a team that 4 games under 500. But yeah, I mean, it can change the narrative. It's just, I don't know if it should, but it can change. It's like, you hit a 308-foot home run to walk it off. Should that change the narrative? I don't know. Probably not, and I don't think a lot of people are. But you got to be good teams. I mean, their schedule was so soft, and then you get into these games, and even against the White Sox and Angels, you aren't taking care of business. If you can take care of business, like win a series against the Yankees, yeah, I mean, I think that's an enormous step in the right direction. But the bigger thing is that you just have to have guys play better, man. You have to be a better baseball team. You have to manage the game in a better way. You have to do all this stuff better. You have to find what you are. Because right now, and this is what Breslow said was true, they have no idea what they are. Forget about results. They have no idea what their identity is. And at this point of the year, you should have that identity.
All right. He's Rob Bradford. You know his identity. Every Thursday, 11:30 here on Jones and Keefe. Bradford.
Hey, quick question.
Yes,
quick question.
Yes.
Because I've been sitting on this all week waiting for this.
Okay.
I have a quandary. I loved listening to you guys talk about three. That's three.
Yeah.
3 for 3. I love talking about OTAs. I love when the football writers keep track of 7 for 9 in OTAs.
Yeah.
What is the spring training equivalent of this? Because I don't want to be baseball player or baseball reporter yelling at clouds, but isn't this the ball's coming out of Lucas Giolito's hand in Dunedin really, really well, and this keeps stats?
Yeah.
What is happening?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, or you could just do Tanner Houck's working on stuff. That's why he sucks right now. Yeah. He's working on stuff.
No, but start keeping. Start keeping those stats, and we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but we're doing entire days we're painting the Drake May picture, and I'm not saying you guys do it in a far more entertaining way than most.
Thank
but
you.
it's it's. You're welcome. I'm here to build up, not tear down. So it's but it's I just don't get how people say this so definitively about Drake May. Drake May had a great day. He went 7 for 9. Well, all right, talk to me in September. This is, and I correlated to
it's June.
Baseball.
I hate to break it to you, Rob. Football is fairly popular.
I know
people are interested in the team.
No, but Bradford, start doing this in spring training next year. We'll relay all of this.
Listen, anyone who's
we'll be like Roman Anthony took big cuts
because Rob, there's no podcast that's football isn't boring because people know that it isn't.
Hold on, I'm writing that down right now. Thank you.
All right, Bradford, good stuff.
Very good.
All right, guys.
Thank
I'll
you.
see you.
All right. Madfo, he's getting a little mad about the.
He was real mad last
writers.
week.
Yeah,
he was fired up at the team last week.
He is.
Yeah, then this week he doesn't like the coverage of the football team.
Nope.
We talk a lot of baseball though on the show.
Look, we do talk a lot of baseball,
We
especially this week. Bradford, you can check out all his work. Odyssey app. Baseball isn't boring. He was reunited with Kenley Jansen, which I'm sure Kenley was thrilled about.
Yeah.
The baseball.
Apparently, had a good sit down with Ryan Brazier too.
Oh yeah,
that's what it sounded like.
Nice.
Off the top.
Nice. Yeah. So you can check it out. Odyssey app. He's here every Thursday. You can also check him out on weei.com. We will go on the clock, by the way. I'm not sure if I've teased this yet. Shame on me.
Yeah, we're
high noon.
Come on.
Why Alex Cora should be fired in just 60 seconds.
That's aggressive.
That's going to pop on social media.
I think people are going to be mad.
Why Alex Cora should be fired in just 60 seconds. We'll do that at high noon.